The Return of Daggerfall. I am very excited to be playing this very special game. This was originally released in 1996. It is currently 2019. I actually did try playing this game back in 2009. Even then it was still quite old. However, I ran into lots of various issues running it through a DOS box type system, and it just didn't want to behave right. It was difficult to get it to run. This, however, is Daggerfall Unity. It is the original game, but in a new skin, so to speak. This game is, in fact, my all-time favorite single-player RPG. And I'm very grateful for the coders that spent a lot of time tirelessly coding, patiently coding, to bring the world Daggerfall Unity. But this is more than just a refreshed version of the game. They didn't just code this game to be able to play well on newer computers with better enhancements and slight visual improvements, well, actually major visual improvements, but they coded this game to be moddable. And there are already a whole bunch of official mods. Or by official, maybe I should say cleared mods. There are some mods under production, and there are a lot that have already been fully released. So in this video, I am going to start a new game. I have messed around with this a little bit just to get a feel for it and to get my settings just the way that I want them. And even more time figuring out a lot of little facts about the game that in some cases I was never even aware of. This is an alpha release. I believe it's alpha 1. And there are some bugs. There's probably going to be some quest issues. I don't think there are very many houses available yet, and whereas in the original Daggerfall there were tons of different houses that you could purchase. But I'm going to jump in anyway. So in this video, it's just going to be me creating a character. And you can create a character. When you create a character in Daggerfall, you pick a region, and then that defines the race. So for example, if I click here, then my character would be a wood elf. That is actually originally what I wanted, because I decided to go with an archer character. Back in the day when I played this game, I never really used bows and arrows or any missile type weapons. For me, it was all about that long blade, and I was in love with the daikatana. I just thought that blade was so badass. That's the only thing I wanted to fight with. So I decided to switch it up quite a bit. I'm going for a sort of scoundrel / thief / stealthy character. And that means, of course, the bow. And I'm going with short blade as well. Short blade is a lot faster to use than a long blade, but it does do less damage. The reason I was going to go with the wood elf was because it had an advantage, a racial advantage with the bow. However, from what I understand, if I understand correctly, there are only 2 racial advantages that are working. And one is with reference to... Is this it? No. Where are the high elves? It's the red guard. Here we go. One is with regard to the high elves. They have an immunity to paralysis. So the old power play was to create a high elf because it's immune to paralysis, and then give yourself a disadvantage of critical weakness to paralysis, which would be nullified by the fact that you are already immune to it. However, you can also go with Skyrim and be a Nord. And Nord also has a working advantage, and that is immunity to frost. So that would mean immunity to frost and cold type attacks. So I'm going to go with this just to mix it up a little bit. you may have noticed that everything just looks a lot better. It's not as pixelated. Much of this is actually due to a mod. I'm running with 3 mods: the Dream mod, Enhanced Sky mod, and I forget the other one. Mountains and Hills, which is really great, because before, if you wanted to sort of travel throughout the world without using fast travel mode, the world was relatively flat, and now it just has so much life. There's also another mod I like, hand-painted models. However, I've had a few issues with that mod, so I'm only running with... It comes as 3 mod pack. The mod pack comes with 3 different files, and I'm only running the treasure one. And even that sometimes gives me issues too. Plus, the thing, I'm not too crazy. I mean, I really do love the way everything looks. It looks great, but it looks almost too great. It doesn't quite have the Daggerfall feel for me, anyway. So that's why, even though it's a great mod and everything looks so spectacular, it's not a mod I'm necessarily going to be running with. Okay, so let's see. I think I'll just call this guy Dread Archer. That's what I came up with in my little test run. I should mention, if you happen to look up here and you see these asterisks there, that's usually a pretty good indicator that I've paused the video. So I hate to edit videos because it's so time consuming and I'm not that great at it. So I'm using a screen recorder that allows me to pause the video and then, or actually pause the recording of the video, and then I can continue to do some things off screen and then unpause and continue on. That'll also help me to keep the video short, because I have a real bad tendency to have really long videos because I like to explain things like I'm doing now. So I'm trying to keep this as short as I can. But in reality, it can take me a good hour to create a character because I'm quite particular about everything. And I'm also not entirely familiar with how everything works. I don't remember how everything works. So a lot of this is recollection, and sometimes I may go and look something up before continuing on. So if you see something weird happen, like it seems you skipped something, that was simply a portion of the video that I paused during the recording. So the first thing I'm going to do is plug in my primary skills. So my first being archery, and then short blade, followed by dodging. I'll make a note about dodging here since I've just selected it. In the original Daggerfall, dodging actually made it more difficult for you to hit an opponent. Kind of a major bug, a very troll bug. So here you are picking up dodging because you're under the impression that it's going to help you to evade attacks. What it actually ended up doing, due to the formula used in the original code, was making it so that your opponent had a greater ability to evade your strike. That has been fixed in Daggerfall Unity. So if you're one of the OG players and you see me pick dodging, you're probably thinking, oh no, you just messed up. Well, it's okay. It works now in Unity. So my primary skills will consist of archery, short blade, dodging, so 2 attack skills and 1 defense skill. Then for my major skills, I'm going to go with Mysticism and Restoration. I've already researched these schools of magic. I think there's 6 schools of magic you can choose from. I'm only going with 2, but I am saying that they're major skills. So you can decide whether or not that means I'm heavily magic or not. I don't think I am, and I'm not planning to be. Okay, what's next? Backstabbing. All right, and then for minor skills, I'm going to go with running, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And stealth, critical strike, medical, lock picking or picking locks. Lock picking, And the last one is mercantile. So leveling up in Daggerfall is dependent upon these 3 skills, these first 2 skills, and this top skill here. So all of the primary, the top 2 major skills, and the first minor skill. Whenever you do these things, they contribute to your ability to level up. So by choosing running, I'm really going to be making it easier for myself to level up, because all I have to do is run everywhere I go, and I'm working on leveling up. The same is true for anytime I use archery, short blade, or dodging. So basically, anytime I'm in combat, I'm also going to be slowly leveling up my character. Major skills, only the first 2. And I've chose Mysticism and Restoration. And the reason for that is because I can control when I use these. So if I just want to sit around and cast a bunch of Restoration spells, then I can do that. Of course, I am going to be limited based on how much Magicka I have. Same thing as mana points. Okay, so now that I have these skills picked out, I'm going to go ahead and adjust my attributes. 50 is considered above average. The way the attributes work is it's sort of like there's 10 levels. So 1 through 9 would represent level 1, and then 10 through 19, level 2, and then 20 through 29 would be level 3, etc., etc. And once you hit that round number, like 50, 60, 70, 80, then oftentimes that's when you see a big performance boost in whatever that attribute defines. So for every skill, there's a governing attribute. So, for example, archery, short blade, and dodging all happen to use agility as the governing attribute. So this is one reason why I picked these 3 as a primary skill, and one reason why I'm going to go with higher agility. Strength is a damage modifier for the short blade, but not for archery. So I'm going to get a little bit of benefit out of that. So I don't want to gimp my character too badly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to decrease my luck down to 35, basically going after 30 extra points to spend. And my personality also down to 35. And I have 30 points to play with. I'm just going to drop 20 into agility, bringing me up to 70, and speed up to 60. Both of these are pretty important for archery. I don't know if this is going to be a viable build or not, because as I said, I've never really played the archery with archery before. So it sounds fun, though. I hope it's going to work out okay. I do know that reload time for the bow depends on speed. To hit ability depends on agility. And actually, I think I may have made a mistake. I think dodging uses speed as the governing attribute, not agility. I would have to look it up. Okay, so 50, 50, 50, so I'm slightly above average, or considered to be above average according to the Daggerfall manual. 70, 50, 35, 60, and 35. So these 2 are a bit low. Luck is a little... I'm not sure about luck. I've heard and read different things. Some people swear by luck, saying if you ever want to get a good drop of Daedric gear, for example, which is the best gear you can get, then you need decent luck. And people that have decided to just go all the way down to 10 and then use those points up here have claimed that they've never really received good drops. So I don't want to take a chance on that, so I'm going to keep it at 35. Personality, this is something that comes in handy, but in my opinion, it's not as critical as being able to fight. So that's why I've dropped it. So the next step, skill advancement. So the way this works is, the idea is this dagger is a meter, and the higher this dagger appears on this meter, the more difficult it is for you to advance. The lower the dagger is, the easier it is for you to advance. Hence up here it says difficult, and down here it says easy. You can only be within this area. You cannot go into the red. So how do you move this meter? By simply doing something over here over here, except for reputations, that will adjust this. So for example, my max hit points per level is currently 8. That is default. That means when I level up, I will earn anywhere from between 1 and 8 hit points. It does not mean you will always earn 8. So if I want to bring that up to, say, 10, I can do that. However, the meter just went up slightly to the more difficult. I could do the opposite as well. I could bring it down. And look at how much it drops down. So dropped down a lot further than it went up just by dropping it by 2 points. But that also means that I could only get it as much as 6 hit points per level. So this is a double-edged dagger, and that is intentional, because for every con, or for every pro, there is a con, and you have to consider that. So the most obvious way to change this meter is by adding special advantages and special disadvantages. If you give yourself a disadvantage, then it will be easier to level up. If you give yourself an advantage, then it will be more difficult to level up. So the idea here is that you do both, and you try to balance it out so that you have a character or class that you're happy with. So I'm going to start by adding some advantages. And the first one I'm going to add is a really important one. It's an immunity, and immunity to magic. Now, my understanding means that spells, especially I think destruction spells, I think, aren't going to really affect me. I hope that's what it means. I'm also going to give myself, let me see, I want athleticism, which has to do with jumping and running and swimming. Some people love this. Some people say it's not even worth it. I happen to like it, and I happen to like mobility in the game. I think it's extremely important. I'm also going to add one that I'm not even sure what it does. It says acute hearing. When I looked it up, it said simply that you can hear more things than usual. I think that simply means I'm going to be more aware of my surroundings, but I don't know. Regardless, I'm going to pick it because it doesn't actually raise the meter up that high. Let's see, what else? I'm also going to do one that usually costs a lot in terms of skill advancement, and increase mastery. So ordinarily, your intelligence determines how many spell points you start with, i.e. magicka. So since I have 50 intelligence, magicka is your intelligence divided in half. So that means I would have 25 magicka. However, you can increase that 1.5, 1.75, 2 times, and 3 times to give you a lot more magicka to work with. And that's what I'm doing. So I'm going to go with the big one 3 times. And you can see it's brought the meter up quite a bit. And anyway, we'll look at that again here in a bit. And then 2 more. Expertise in first missile weapon, because I'm going to be first a bow user. And again, in the short blade, because that will be my secondary weapon. So there's my meter. Here are my advantages: immunity to magic, athleticism, acute hearing, increased magicka, 3 times intelligence, expertise in missile weapon, expertise in short blade. So our meter has risen up quite a bit. We could leave it right there if we wanted to, but it's going to be more difficult to level up. So now we're going to add some disadvantages. The first one is a critical weakness to paralysis. But you're not a high elf. You're a Nord. You're not immune to paralysis. You are correct, but I'm going to come back to that in a minute and explain why I did that. And then my next one is going to be critical weakness to frost, because I am already immune to it, being a Nord. And then I'm going to add another critical weakness to disease. And look at my meter now. It's actually in the red. So despite having added all those advantages, the critical weaknesses drop the meter down quite a bit. And I have to actually get it out of the red. I'm going to do that with max hit points. But I'm not done adding disadvantages just yet. I'm also going to forbid myself a specific material, namely Orcish. By the way, these are in alphabetical order. They are not in the order of how great the material is. For example, iron is the worst, and Daedric is the best. I think Orcish is second best, or maybe it's mid-level. But the reason I'm choosing Orcish material is because, first of all, I don't think there is even any Orcish armor in the game. And there are Orcish weapons, but you're not going to really find very many. So I might as well forbid it and drop my meter down even lower. And I'm also going to forbid myself some weapons. Why can't I read? Here it is. Forbidden weaponry, starting with the axe. Since I'm specializing in the small blade and the bow, there's no reason to ever use an axe, so I might as well just completely forbid it and bring my meter even lower. And I'm also going to forbid myself the long blade. And I think that's it. I was thinking of possibly blunt weapons. I don't want to restrict myself. I don't want to take away hand-to-hand. And the reason for that is because some creatures need a specific type of metal or better in order to kill them, or magic. And if you're ever stuck with no magicka and the wrong kind of metal in your weapon, at the very least you can still go up and slap them with your hands. It may be a rough fight. You may have to try a few times. It may be impossible, but at least it's a chance. So I don't think I would ever want to take away that. Blunt weapons. What I don't know, I'm thinking of an old game in which there are different types of arrows, and some were piercing, some were blunt damage, and some were cutting damage. It seems like they would all be piercing type damage. I don't know how it works in Daggerfall because it's been so long since I played. But just in case there are arrows that are considered blunt damage, I don't want to do that. So I think that will be good for there. But I do want to add, because you can add up to 7, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I can add one more disadvantage. I think I'll go with shield types because I'm never really going to be using a shield anyway. So there we go. Those are all of my disadvantages. Critical weakness to paralysis, to frost, to Zs, forbidden material Orcish, forbidden weapon axe, long blade, and forbidden shield type tower. If I could add more, I would, but if I click, it won't allow me because 7 is the max. I have 7 disadvantages and 6 advantages. Now, let's talk about this for a moment. The reason that I have selected critical weakness to paralysis and disease is because what I have read is that immunity to magic includes paralysis and disease. And this is why I didn't go with the high elf, which is the power move, because it's already immune to paralysis, and this would be a bit redundant, and I would want to add immunity to magic anyway. So I might as well do it with the Nord, because with the Nord I also get immunity to frost, which means I can also pick up critical weakness to frost. This is a bit of a min-max move, but it was actually kind of unintentional. I didn't learn about this until after the fact, because I wanted to do something a little different, and usually you don't see brutish Nords running around as stealthy characters, and that's what I wanted to do. And it just so happens that it's kind of working out, but I'm not 100% sure. I also read that immunity to magic includes poison. However, I saw a few disagreements on that one, so that's why I didn't go with the critical weakness to poison. I'm hoping this information is correct, and I'm hoping it's correct for Daggerfall Unity as well, because if it's not, then I have just severely gimped my character. And at least early on, and maybe later if I can get potions to protect from paralysis and disease, and maybe it won't be a big deal. I don't know. Only during gameplay will I know for sure. So, I now have this set, and if I exit, it won't let me. The difficulty of advancing dagger cannot be in the red. Select more advantages to move it up or more disadvantages to move it down. So, as I said, you can't be in the red. So I'm going to easily fix this simply by bringing up the max possible hit points up to 17. So now, anytime I level up, I can get anywhere from between 1 and 17 hit points. And I'm as low as I can possibly get, meaning it's the easiest possible setting for leveling up. Alright, the last thing is edit reputations, but this is a bad idea. Because in order to make yourself liked by someone, you have to be disliked by another. So, for example, if I click here and reduce my likability to -1, meaning I'm disliked by the merchants, I have 1 point available now, so I can be liked by the scholars if I want to, but at a very expensive cost, and it is very expensive to be disliked by any groups in the game. So I'm going to leave it as is, 0, 0, 0. I'm going to try to keep it this way throughout the rest of character creation. Alright, so now we are ready. Let me get rid of those because I don't want my class name to be Dread Archer ****. I just want it to be Dread Archer. This portion, you either get to let the game decide your background, or you can choose it by asking or by answering 12 questions. This is the road that I'm taking because it gives you more control. What thieving skill have you been studying the longest? I think I'm going to go with backstabbing because that's basically a damage multiplier. And I wanted to make a note about critical strike. Critical strike isn't what you think it is. It isn't in Daggerfall original, and it's the same. It's the same for Daggerfall Unity. Critical strike for most games means if you hit just right in a special spot, you do extra damage. However, in Daggerfall, critical strike doesn't mean that. It means a higher to-hit ratio. In other words, a greater chance to be able to hit your opponent. It's still a good skill to pick up, in my opinion, just for that reason, because why not have a higher chance of hitting your opponent? But I just wanted to point that out before continuing on. Okay, so I'm going to go with back. Be careful if you click, because if you click, there's no confirmation. It immediately accepts your answer and goes to the next question. So I'm going to go with backstabbing. What school of magic have you been studying the longest? I'm going to go with the two that I actually training, Restoration and Mysticism. We'll go with Mysticism. Where is your expertise in combat? Well, I don't know if this is going to give me an extra bonus on top of the expertise bonus I already have, because it says, where is your expertise in combat? So it sounds like I would be given that expertise, even though I've already paid for it through the advantages. I'm really hope that by selecting, I want to click archery. I don't know if that means extra or if it means I'm going to nullify my existing expertise. The reason for that is because there is a bug in Daggerfall. It's basically a type of overflow bug, I guess, where if you apply the same two measurements, it can take it into the negative. It's actually a known issue, and people use this to glitch their character to be a better character, and I'll explain that when the question comes up. I'm really not sure what to do here. I think what I'll do is I'll go with short-bladed weapons just in case that's what happens. Since short blade is my secondary, I don't want to gimp my archery. As a child, your nickname was Rabbit, Quicksilver, Monkey. I think these have to do with skills. So rabbits are known for running fast, so this is probably running. Or maybe Quicksilver's running. Or maybe jumping, because rabbits are also known for hopping. And then maybe Quicksilver is running. Monkey, I don't know what monkey is. I think Guppy is swimming. I think I'll just go with that because I think I know what that one is. You are friendlier than most with... So the way this works is, if you apply the same two measurements, it can take it into the negative. The reason for that is because there is a bug in Daggerfall. It's basically a type of overflow bug, where if you apply the same two measurements, it can take it into the negative. The reason for that is because if you apply the same two measurements, it can take it into the negative. The reason for that is because there is a bug in Daggerfall. It's basically a type of overflow bug, where if you apply the same two measurements, it can take it into the negative. The reason for that is because there is a bug in Daggerfall. It's basically a type of overflow bug, where if you apply the same two measurements, it can take it into the negative. The reason for that is because there is a bug in Daggerfall. It's basically a type of overflow bug, where if you apply the same two measurements, it can take it into the negative. The reason for that is because there is a bug in Daggerfall. It's basically a type of overflow bug, where if you apply the same two measurements, it can take it into the negative. The re if you happen to be slightly friendly with one of these groups and then you encounter them in the game, there's a chance that they'll ignore you, so you don't have to fight them. And when that happens, they'll just literally turn away from you and show you their back. That's really great if you're trying to get a backstab in. So I think for that reason, I'm just going to go with Daedra, since I think they're the strongest or the most dangerous. I'm not really sure. I've actually never finished the game. I've played so much of this game back in the 90s, and I just got off track. I completely forgot about the main quest. I don't remember what the main quest was, to be honest. And I was just running around playing the game and still just loving it. Okay, as you grew older, you received additional magical training in... Okay, so what was the other one was Mysticism. We'll go with Restoration this time. In between formal study, you spent your time... Okay... You have to be careful with this one because some of these have a negative with the positive. So if you socialize with the aristocrats, then that may cost you some reputation with the street smarts people and vice versa. Trespassing? I don't know what that means. I don't know what that's for. Swimming, I did swimming as a guppy. I think I'm going to go with learning economics because I think that's going to increase my mercantile skill, or perhaps my reputation with merchants. But I don't think there's a negative with that, so we'll go with that one. Of all disagreeable types, you have the most personal hatred for. Well, I like those immoral assassins actually. I'm not really sure. I think some of these may have a negative with them as well. I don't know what to do. Maybe Sanctimonious Priest, but is that going to mess me up when I try to join a group? Because you have to pick a god too. I don't know. I'll just pick this one. What motivates you into a life of adventure? So I actually read this one a little bit, and I think this determines like a little bit of your startup. Like if you choose riches, I think you get a little bit extra startup capital, but that's easy enough to get anyway. I think I'd rather go with fame because I think that actually affects how people view you. If you want to be famous, then people look up to you. And so I think that's a harder stat to get up than simply money. Money is probably the easiest thing to get. Lots of money, on the other hand, I'm not sure about. What god, if any? All right. This is really confusing as hell. I spent a lot of time reading up on this, and I'm still not entirely clear on how they benefit you. I'm going with this one, and the reason for it is because I read that if you're facing death with the final blow, and you get that final blow, there is a chance that the God of Mercy won't let you die on that final blow. It'll leave you with just maybe one hit point left. So that little bit might make the difference between winning and losing a fight. Before you set out for the Imperial City, your mother gave you... I don't know which of these is worth the most. These are all just objects. I'll just go with 100 gold. You have the most trouble. Here's the glitch that I mentioned earlier. Due to this sort of overflow or overstack, I don't know how the glitch exactly works. A lot of people will go with resisting poisons, and then they give themselves... Wait, is it poisons or avoiding disease? I think it's resisting poisons. And what they'll do is they will give themselves a critical weakness to poison, and then say they have the most difficulty resisting poison. I think originally the thought was, well, I already have a critical weakness to them, so I might, because these are all negative, so I might as well pick this as a negative since it's not going to make it any worse, since I already have a critical weakness. But then what happened is people started to realize, hey, I'm never getting poisoned. Or it might be disease. It might be critical weakness to disease and then avoiding diseases. But they both probably work the same way. But what happened was, apparently what happened was the critical weakness, when added to the resist weakness, actually turned it into a negative or a positive, so they simply never got poisoned and they never got a disease. So that's the glitch. So I don't want to use this glitch, but I feel highly motivated to do so, and this is why. Ordinarily, I would just say, okay, well, I have the most trouble resisting magic. Why? Because I'm already immune to magic. But I'm concerned that this will nullify the immunity effect because of that glitch. So I'm sort of... So that means my mouse is gravitating right over here. I don't want to use the glitch. I'm not even sure, to be honest, exactly how this is working, but just to be on the safe side, I don't want to mess around with my immunity to magic, so I'm just going to go to avoid disease. So it does show you your reputation changes, and I said that I did not want anything lower, so I looked out. Unchanged, higher for scholars, higher for underworld. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe it was because I wanted to be famous. I don't know exactly. Anyway, there we go. Name thyself. We'll go with... What do I want to go with? You know what? Yeah, we'll just do this. Okay. Now I get to pick a face. They all look very Nordish. This guy's got his high eyebrows. Like, what? Nope. That was popular in the 80s, or maybe even the 90s. Yeah, I guess it was popular in the 90s. But I want to have the ponytail. Maybe that one. I don't know. I'm not really particularly happy with any of these. I guess we'll go with this guy. He kind of looks Scandinavian. Anyway, we'll go with this look. Okay, now the fun part. Well, honestly, I love creating characters in Daggerfall, so this is all the fun part for me. So this is where you get to roll, and then you roll for a chance to increase this stuff. I already know that this won't increase unless you use your distribution points to increase, what is it? Endurance. Why do I not see... Oh, endurance right in front of me. I don't know why I skipped over it. So I think if I can get this up to 60. I mentioned before that everything happens in groups of 10 in terms of attributes. So if I can break out of 56 and get into 60, then I can get myself an extra hit point and a higher healing rate. However, I need to stay focused here and here. Those are my primary attributes. But I also need to be mindful of intelligence for spell points and of willpower, because willpower directly affects your magic casting. And then strength is a modifier for the short blade. Personality kind of comes in here and there, and luck as well. So you need everything, but you should always prioritize. But I'm not happy with this roll. I want 14 here, and I've never seen anything higher than 14 here. I would like to have at least one here and at least one here. I would love to have a max encumbrance of 90. I think that's the highest you can get. Spell points, I'm not too picky about. 174 is decent. But I'm not even going to consider anything unless I have a 14 here. So I'm just going to keep re-rolling. Listen to that wonderful die sound. And hope that I don't get too excited rolling that I skip over 14. What? Where are all the 14s? I was getting tons of 14s before. There we go. So there's a 14. Max encumbrance 76. Meh, it's okay. Magic resist is 5, but this is unimportant to me because I'm already immune to magic, so I can completely disregard this value. And by the way, you may have noticed these numbers are higher than what we had, because we had 70, I believe, 71 agility, 70 agility and 60 speed. So why are these numbers different? Because of the answers to those various questions. Okay, this isn't the best, but I'm going to save it unless it is literally the best I can ever get. So you do that simply by clicking Save Roll. When you do that, you get no feedback or indication that you clicked it. You just have to know that you did. And I'll show you how that works. I'll re-roll again. So there's an 11. Let's say I've been doing this for half an hour and I decided that was the best I was going to get. Then you just click Load Roll, and then it brings it back. But you can only save one. I'm going to pause the recording now and click this about 1,000,000 times. Actually, I just realized that these values actually change during those rolls as well. I have never noticed that before. So now it's difficult to know because I was just looking at this number to see when it was 14, but these values may be lower than another one, in which perhaps this was just a 6. On the other hand, if I sit here and try to calculate every single time, it's going to really take me forever. So I'm just going to continue on with this method. So this one is 14, plus 1 damage, plus 2 to hit. Spell points 165. It's not bad. 88, that is very close. Very close. Let me save this one. It's better than what I had before. How would I distribute this? Well, first of all, I'm so close to 60, I might as well go for that next big bump. Endurance is lower than it was before, but if I want to get this bonus, then I got to go ahead and spend for that. Then I get +1 and +1. Agility is okay. Actually, speed went up to 70 from 60. That's good. I actually do like that. 55, 56. Might as well bump that up. That leaves us with one more. I think I'll put that into speed, and then I have 71 agility and 71 speed. I actually did get my max encumbrance. I just now noticed that. I've never seen this number higher. I think strength also will increase this over time. This basically determines how much you can carry. And you can't carry a lot of stuff. Especially armor pieces start to add up very quickly. And items do break when you use them. Weapons break, armor breaks, and you always want to have an extra armor piece on you to put on. So it's important to be able to carry as much stuff as possible. I don't remember if gold actually has weight to it or not. Alright, so I think we're just going to go with this. And this green, this has always been the same. So I think this is always the same. You always get 6 additional points to spend for your 3 skill brackets. Primary, major, minor. So, how do I want to do this? I think I'm real tempted to go dodging. I think I'm just going to do it equally. Just go 2 each. I'm going to do the same here. Just, I don't have to think about it too much. It's just a little bit of extra. I don't think it's going to make a huge difference. I'm actually going to avoid running for this. What seems like it might be difficult to get up? Maybe mercantile. Well, mercantile 2. Medical is actually pretty important and useful early on. So the way medical works is anytime you rest to recover your hit points and your endurance and your magicka, the higher your medical, the higher that increases. That's kind of important because it means you don't have to rest forever. It's also important when you're in a dungeon because when you're waiting or loitering or resting, stuff will always sneak up on you. And that usually happens before you're fully healed. Actually, maybe I don't want to do this, and I'll explain why. The 16 isn't a big difference. We'll go with 16 there, and we'll go ahead and go critical strike 2 more. I'll explain why I didn't put more into medical intentionally. Alright, this determines how fast your attackers are. Player reflexes determine the overall speed of the game. If you pick very high reflexes, the monsters will move and attack quickly. This forces you to be quick with the controls. Very low reflexes means the monsters will move and attack. Now, in old Daggerfall, I would always go average. However, with Daggerfall Unity, because the game itself is faster, you can see immediately how easy it is to move around, just because it's modernized. So you could probably go with very high. And the benefit of that is that your character will advance a little slower with a lower reflex setting, and will advance a little faster with a higher reflex setting. So if you were having some issues with your dagger meter, you could use this to help compensate and still be able to advance at a fairly decent rate. I'm just going to keep it at average though. And so I guess I give you one last look at everything. Can this stuff be changed? Let me see. Yes, it can. So it lets you look at everything, including that, but not less than what you originally increased it by. So it gives you one last chance to look over everything. So 60, 55, 56. Man, I wouldn't have mind bringing that up to 60 as well, but that's all right. I'll get it up to 60 eventually. Same with intelligence, agility, endurance, personality, speed. Like, I'm actually really happy with 71 agility, 71 speed, although you can get higher than this. 100 is the max attribute you can get, and then I think everything else has to be 95. However, you can use items, magic items in game, spells, potions, etc., to get it as high as, I don't remember if it's 110 or 115. But organically, only one can be at 100, and the rest can be at 95, if I recall correctly. All right, I think I'm happy. We'll listen to this, and then I'll get started.
400 years after Tiber Saturn's reign, the beginning will meet the end, and the bloody circle will close in the empire of Tamriel. Then worthy heirs of the Second Dynasty have allowed the bonds of the empire to weaken and crack. Uriel Septim VII cannot repair what his ancestors ignored. The provinces fight among themselves like neglected children, drunk with rebellion, and one indomitable power hides itself, but not forever.
Excuse the gloom, but none may know of this meeting. The nature of my trouble is darker still. Over a year ago, King Lysandus of Daggerfall died honorably on the field of battle. He was as loyal a subject, ally, and friend as you are. I did grieve for him, but his spirit does not rest. With a spectral army, he haunts his former kingdom, crying for revenge. I do not know why a good and loyal man would be so cursed. Perhaps you can find the answer.
Me?
And close the marble jaws of oblivion, bringing peace to his soul. I ask this as your emperor and your friend. I have one lesser request. Several years ago, I wrote a letter to the Queen of Daggerfall. It never arrived. The letter was of a sentimental and personal nature.
You dog, you.
If you find and destroy that letter, I will be grateful.
I bet you will.
Now, my champion, rest well this night, for tomorrow you sail for the kingdom of Daggerfall.
Daggerfall! Alright. I think that's the first time I actually paid attention to that video. I have two questions. Well, actually, I only have one question. Hey, why isn't the game? Did this? Okay, there we go. Still nothing. Okay, there we go. Oh, you wake and look around the room. Some hours ago, you were in a boat en route to Daggerfall when a storm of supernatural strength boiled over the Iliac Bay like a malefic creature. Your boat was destroyed, but you managed to swim through the churning water to a promontory rock. There you found a cave and escaped the fury of the storm. You had only just lit a small fire when the mudslide sealed you within. Oh man, what the hell, Mama? First my boat sinks and I get lost in the first get lost in the storm, my boat sinks, and now I'm stuck in a mudslide. Your fear of being buried alive calmed when you saw the corridor leading out of the cavern. Perhaps there is a way out of this cave after all. Once free of the cave, you can begin the Emperor's quest. No. Look at that beautiful fire. Oh my god, it's so majestic and pixelated. I love it. So, this is going to be the end of the video. I did want to mention one more thing. If you're familiar with the original Daggerfall, you probably noticed that a lot of the graphics looked way better than it did in the original. Let me check movement here. Okay, good. A lot of that is Daggerfall Unity, and some of it is one of the mods that I'm using, which is the Dream mod. So the Dream mod is it's actually more like a mod pack, and there are a lot of visual enhancements to the game with that. So I don't know why there is sound of coins in the background. Sounds like someone just dropped. Oh, I got lucky. I got lucky with a steel wakizashi. Why is that luck? Because I can't use this long blade. I need a short blade. And in my test run, I never started with a short blade, which means I have to start punching things. And right from the very beginning, it was extremely painful to just try and kill things until I could get a short blade, because I'm not really trained for fists. But anyway, let me grab a torch real quick. See what's going on. There we go. Kind of see. I know that YouTube is not very happy with dark videos, and they're very difficult to see on YouTube sometimes. This will make things a little bit easier. So that's going to be it for this video. I'm going to go ahead and stop here. And just gathering my thoughts. I'm going to stop there. I am going to do a playthrough. I don't think I'm going to try to be as exhaustive as I was in my previous playthrough in Subnautica, which, by the way, I lost my character to a bug. I was playing hardcore mode, so yeah, that's why I had to end my Subnautica playthrough. The perils of bugs in hardcore mode, but there is no hardcore mode in this game, and this game is a save often game because it is unforgiving. You make one little mistake and combat is I won't say it's difficult, but it's quite easy to die. So we'll end this here. This will be the character creation video, and then we'll start the playthrough in the next video, and I'm going to try to keep those down to like maybe 20 minutes, which means some of them will be around 30 minutes. That's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.